category is that they tend to nominate way too many songs that just roll over the closing credits. I like movie songs that are woven into the plot. This Is a Life is a closing credits song, but it really chews on the ideas and themes of the movie. It's also a beautiful song, sweeping, emotional, thoughtful. In most years, this would be my runaway favorite. But this year, we've got a song called Naatu Naatu. It's written by M.M. Keeravani and Chandra Bose for a pivotal scene in the movie RRR. Basically, the song sets up a vigorous dance battle, an hour into a sweeping epic. The whole scene is an absolute feast. It's a battle between good and evil with choreography that helped the video go viral last year. It absolutely radiates joy and energy and charisma. I think it's going to win, I think it should win, and I can't wait to see it performed on Oscar night. Stephen Thompson, NPR News.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm A. Martinez.
And I'm Steve Inskeep.
And this is WNYC in New York at 10 minutes before 7 o'clock. The Marketplace Morning Report is next. And later on Morning Edition, as the culture wars in the U.S. grow to envelop things like drag performances, high school theater programs worry they could get swept up in the heated rhetoric. Recently, some plays have been canceled by officials who find the content inappropriate. We'll have more on that coming up ahead next hour. Stay with us. It's 34 degrees under sunny skies in New York City. It'll stay mostly sunny today with highs in the upper 40s to near 50 degrees. For tonight, partly cloudy with lows in the lower 30s and mostly cloudy for Friday with a chance of rain in the afternoon. Now that rain lasts into the evening. We could see some snow overnight. For Saturday, mostly cloudy with a chance of rain and snow in the morning, then a little chance in the afternoon. And for Sunday, mostly sunny with highs in the mid-40s.
Support for WNYC comes from Optimum Business, offering products like secure internet with speeds up to 1 gig and built-in cybersecurity to help businesses stay connected. More at 866-218-2913 or at optimum.com/business.
The biggest bank and a new chapter in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Fidelity. A dedicated Fidelity advisor can help create a wealth plan for a full financial picture. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC.
I'm David Brancaccio in New York. The biggest of banks, J.P. Morgan Chase, is suing one of its former top executives. The bank claims Jes Staley entangled the company with disgraced financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and aided in Epstein's sexual abuse and trafficking of girls. Marketplace's Nova Safo is following the story.
David, J.P. Morgan is making some very serious charges against Jes Staley. He was J.P. Morgan's former head of private banking and had been considered even a potential successor for CEO Jamie Dimon. Staley left the bank in 2013, went to become CEO at another financial heavyweight, Barclays, and then resigned in 2021 because of his Epstein ties. And while Staley was at J.P. Morgan, the bank claims that Staley vouched for Epstein, protected him, even as public allegations were made against him. And the bank says Staley did it to keep Epstein as a client. Now, these allegations were made in complaints filed yesterday in Manhattan Federal Court. J.P. Morgan also is accusing Staley of having first-hand knowledge of Epstein's crimes, and J.P. Morgan is accusing Staley of committing sexual abuse himself. Now, there has been no comment from Staley or his lawyers. He has previously expressed regret for his relationship with Epstein and said he didn't know what Epstein was doing.
Now, Nova, to understand J.P. Morgan suing Staley like this, we have to remember there are two other lawsuits which seek to hold J.P. Morgan Chase responsible for maintaining ties with Epstein.
Right, and those lawsuits were brought by one unidentified woman and by the government of the U.S. Virgin Islands. And they say J.P. Morgan should have known what was going on and helped, in essence, Epstein, commit his sex trafficking operation. JP Morgan is defending itself against those lawsuits, but what it's saying in the new filings is that if it were to be found liable in those suits, it's Staley who should pay part or all of the damages.
Novosafo, thank you. Checking the markets. Dow futures are little changed. They're up 11 points. S&P futures are down 0.2%. NASDAQ futures down 0.5%. The big news that could move markets really is tomorrow morning, the February jobs report, which seems a little late this month because of a quirk of the calendar. In the peer-reviewed journal Nature, evidence that it's possible to create a superconductor at room temperature. This would be a technique to move electricity without the wasteful resistance that produces losses through heat. You can do that now if you make the system cold, and I mean cold. If the University of Rochester-based researchers are really onto something, this could lead to longer batteries, trains that levitate, highly efficient power grids. Now, it's also true that Nature had to retract a paper from this same group on another semiconductor, and an accompanying news article also in Nature this week carries the cautious headline, "Hopes raised for room temperature superconductivity, but doubts remain."
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, where research on how to find a protein that keeps cancer cells alive is leading to new therapies for some blood cancers. Learn more about this momentum at danafarber.org/stories.
We like to take the economic pulse here, checkups from a range of perspectives. The boom in vinyl records has been good business for record shops, many of which have seen a new and more diverse generation of customers come in their doors. Rene Perez is owner of Sonido del Valle, a record store in the Los Angeles neighborhood of Boyle Heights. Rene left his job as a cook to start the enterprise, and he's kept it thriving through pandemic. He told us his story.
So this is one of my favorite newer records. My name is Rene Perez, and I own a record store in Boyle Heights, which is a part of East LA. We've been doing it now for about 5 years. LA has a really long and rich history of Latin record labels that have been here since the beginning of recorded music. And Latin music, like cumbia, bachata, salsa, corridos, everything, it's always been around, and I've always heard it in passing, but I didn't actually grow up listening to it. I kind of got into it through DJing. I was just sort of drawn to it, and that's what kind of made me want to start specifically focusing on that as our main thing. I was surprised that there wasn't already a shop nearby. I think, when we opened, there was one, and they weren't really carrying, a lot of local artists or even Latin music. So we thought there was definitely a void that we can fill with our shop, and that's kind of what we've been known for since, So it was always a big dream of mine to have a record store. I felt what better way to get cool records than to have your own shop, right? So I would say since I started buying records, I would always dream about working at a shop or owning a shop. In high school, I was buying CDs every week. Whenever I had any money, I would buy CDs. I'd go to Tower Records when they were open, I'd go to Warehouse when they were open, and sometimes I'd go to record stores. But the reason I started buying vinyl is because I had friends in high school who told me, hey, you can buy that Cure record for $2 at Goodwill instead of paying $15 for the CD. And they were right. And so it started out that way. It wasn't really because it was vinyl and it sounded better, honestly. It was just because I was broke and I was in high school. We have our slow parts of the year and we have our busy parts of the year, and so we kind of have to ride the waves and do what we can to stay afloat. It's not easy having a brick and mortar shop these days, but I feel like people do still want to come and dig and discover stuff, and I feel like that's what we do best. Vinyl, it's definitely popular. Now people have had a taste for streaming and a taste for physical media, and I think there's a lot of people who want that, tangible item to hold and to read and to look at, and I think that's not going to go away. And now, we have people from, as young as 13 to as old as 80 who come here regularly, for Latin records. We have people coming from Europe, we have people coming from South America, we have people coming from Mexico City to buy Mexican records here. Since I had just gotten out of the kitchen, I knew I had to push hard and make this work. Otherwise, I would have been screwed because I had no other job. I knew it was either this or start looking for another, cooking job or be a janitor somewhere, basically, So I really wanted to make it work, and I just gave it 110%, and it ended up working out, I think, If anybody really wants to open up a record store, they can do it. I mean, if I can do it, you can definitely do it. It's hard, but it's not that hard if you love it.
As owner of Sonido del Valle in Los Angeles, and an economic pulse produced by Marketplace's Jarrett Dang. In New York, I'm David Brancaccio with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
WNY